Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer, and I'm back. This is part 3 of my Rome Total War II AAR, and we're picking up right where part 2 left off, so this is part 3 as I said. My army under Julius Caesar just got destroyed in the southwest corner of Gaul. The north or southeast corner is more or less secure after having defeated the Helvetii just at the very beginning of the war, so I am now at war with two tribes here in the south, and my main field army for my entire kingdom here, or empire, or whatever, was recently just destroyed in a battle with overwhelming numbers. I took Segundium from the tribe that lived there, but then another tribe which I was at war with came back in with an even larger army and destroyed my army, which had been badly damaged in the process of seizing Segundium. So now I have no main armies. On the positive side, you can see on the lower right hand corner of the screen I've got 5,301 denarii, or whatever my currency is, in projected revenue, but I have no way to defend myself. So I'm going to need to build some armies up and hopefully go kick some ass, and pardon the language there, hopefully go ahead and get to the southwest and defeat these tribes who think they can defeat the Roman Empire and my own kingdom. So let's go ahead and let's get started here. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit just because, well, first of all, actually, let's take a look here. You can see the Kaduri, I'm going to offer them peace, but they reject it. So that's one of the kingdoms. They're really the only one left that I'm at war with because I destroyed the other ones. The Rutani, I think, are just probably have a small army somewhere. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like they have a province. I don't think that's a province, so maybe they just have an army that's kind of running around, but they won't accept peace either. So anyway, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit till I've got my army kind of rebuilt here. I'll go ahead and save the game and then jump ahead a bit, and we'll be right back. Alright, and jumping ahead a bit, as I said, I've got one army built up here kind of in the north, and I've actually got two armies, kind of, not two full armies though, but I've got two armies here in the area of Narbu Marius. I would love to know how to actually pronounce these names effectively, but I'm still building my armies up. We've jumped ahead several turns here. I was also building an army up in my eastern provinces, and I've marched it through down toward the southwest. That's one reason it's imperative and very useful to keep these central southern Gaulish provinces, which start friendly. That's a key reason to keep them friendly, because you start off with military access rights to them, so you can just march right on through without having any worry of, upsetting them and then causing you to have to fight even more people who maybe you're not ready to fight here. But took some time, took some turns, took the better part of maybe 4 or 5 months, and now we're into the winter of 57 BC. I can move my troops here, but as you can see, that red skull means they're going to suffer attrition. Now my goal is to hopefully take Segundium quick enough that attrition won't matter, and as you see here now, I've got almost 5,000 troops versus the enemy's only about 2,000. Looks like they were bled pretty bad by the battle in which they beat me, or they withdrew forces, one or the other. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and simulated the victory there, and you can see quite a lot of blood and gore. I mentioned it in one of the earlier videos, but I do have the Rome Total War II Blood and Gore expansion, so you see a little bit more blood than normal. There I took Segundium there successfully. Again, another very bloody battle, but Caesar has come back. He has returned, if he were ever really vanquished, although yes he was, and he defeated Segundium, or what are these people, the Caladuri or the Kaduri? I don't know how to pronounce that, but either way, he defeated them. And now we have this province, and we're going to hopefully move on to take Devonia as well. As we kind of move east here, really no threat as far as I can see to my eastern provinces, which is nice because they're making me a good deal of money. I've built up quite a bit of forces, and still have a decent amount of money here, so I'm going to keep kind of slowly building things up here in the east in order to improve my profitability, so I can continue building bigger and even better armies with which to destroy my enemies. which hopefully by the end of this game will result in me conquering all of Gaul. I am somewhat skeptical, however, that I will conquer Gaul, if only because, you know, we're almost through 57 BC. That'll mean we're through 58 and 57. I believe the campaign ends when the historical Gaelic campaigns ended in 50 BC, so we're almost a quarter through the gameplay. You know, these are, what, 40-plus turns, I think, by this point. And, you know, I've taken a few provinces, but I haven't broken out and had anywhere near the kind of success that Caesar did. Although I don't think, I may have already mentioned this, but I don't think replicating Caesar's historical successes are even possible in this game. I mean, he more or less had conquered Gaul in just 2 years. Oh, great. Here come the enemy. Well, I can win a Pyrrhic victory, most likely, so I guess I'll have to do that. Hopefully if I win that battle, they're so badly beaten they can't really attack me. Oh, wicked. A Gladys to the neck. That's the name of the sword that the Roman soldiers use. Yeah. Let's kill all those captives. Maybe they won't come back. But as I was saying, Caesar, it seemed to me, based on what I've read, more or less... great. Now that I lost so many troops, a rebellion is imminent. But it seemed to me that Caesar more or less... he had more or less conquered Gaul by 57 BC, so it really only took him like 2 years. But that's with some important provisions. There were a lot of the Gaelic tribes kind of remained as is and were just friendly with the Romans initially. A lot of other Gaelic tribes seemingly were ignored, or just sort of went along with Roman power. Rome didn't conquer or assimilate Gaul in 2 years by any stretch of the imagination. But I think they probably would have added Gaul to the map of their empire by that period of time. I could be off on this, but this is just how I'm reading what I've read. From 57 to 50 BC, the majority of the fights were punitive expeditions against Gaelic tribes who were acting out against Roman rule. So that kind of implies to me that the Gauls were more or less conquered. Now, the most famous campaigns did not happen until a little bit later. Those were something like 54, 53? I'm guessing on that. I don't have it up in front of me. BC. And that has more to do with Gaelic tribes basically coming together and uniting against Roman rule, and I'll talk a little bit about that when I take on the was it the Avarni? I know they started with an A, who were the main instigators of that rebellion, if you will, or that resistance to Roman rule. But so it was sort of interesting because, like I said, the Romans seemed to geographically be able to claim Gaul by 57 BC, but within those claims, there's all these Gaelic kingdoms who still retain their own rights, their own territory, and all of that, and the Romans really don't assimilate them right away. They just kind of gain political control over the area, and then eventually crush them when those tribes try and resist Roman authority in the region, if you will. And actually, those were really the later campaigns, are the more famous of Caesar's. But as I said, I will talk about that a little bit later here. So I've taken Saguntium. I have a very bloodied and beaten up army. This video is probably going to be a little bit quicker than some of the previous ones, just because I don't feel like boring you watching me select different, buildings that I'm building to establish public order so I can get rid of these garrisons here in the rear and also earn some money. So I'm going to speed up a little bit till I'm, ready to expand or conquer more, and we'll go from there. Alright, I skipped ahead a little bit more, although definitely nothing too far, only a couple of minutes really. And the Cadrusi are once again trying to retake Saguntium. One thing that I think the AI in Rome Total War has always really struggled with is determining when to attack and when not to, and that's a good example. They sallied forth with, 900 men, and I've got more than 2 times that. A player would have the ability to withdraw. I think the AI should be smart enough to know when to not just do that. I know that was a glitch with the original release of Rome Total War 2, where it seemed like the AI just launched, wave attack after wave attack of very small armies and wouldn't launch effective attacks. I can't say that I've really noticed that happen a whole lot lately, but I'm also still pretty early in this campaign, so hopefully that's just maybe one bad example of maybe, let's say, a stupid commander on on the AI side versus maybe a more intelligent commander. Since a lot of the historical leaders during the Gaelic Wars are modeled in this expansion, so it is a pretty cool expansion. Like I said, I wouldn't claim the expansion is historically accurate. There's actually mods out there that make the armies and units and a whole lot of things more accurate. But for an expansion, this definitely does a pretty good job. Certainly knocks it out of the park compared to the original Rome Total War release, and how absolutely everything was handled on that game. I think one thing that would be interesting that they could include in this game would be if they included the ability for tribes to migrate. I know that was included in Rome Total War, the original, for the Barbarian expansion, with the whole premise that tribes were moving and relocating, and because of that they needed to have a more mobile sort of existence in the game as opposed to being tied to your territories. And in that game, you could basically, a tribe could decide it was going to migrate and pick up and get a massive couple of stacks of troops, basically simulating that everyone in the tribe was moving based on the size of the tribe, and then they could decide to settle down again. Now, when they were moving, they didn't have any actual costs, so there was no upkeep cost. But as soon as they settle down, then they have to deal with all the same sort of things that a regular kingdom that's established had to deal with. And I think that would be a really cool thing to model in this game, because while that was certainly the case during the barbarian migrations, which took place in the later Roman Empire, it was also the case right around this time period. A large reason for the conflicts in Gaul had to do with Germanic tribes basically forcing out various, I wouldn't call them barbarian because the Gauls were somewhat respected, more so than other barbarian groups by the Romans. But they were forcing out other tribes out of Germania and forcing them into Gaul. And those tribes were putting pressure on the Gauls, which were then in turn making the Romans uncomfortable, making the Romans think, oh, well, maybe there's something we can take advantage of here, and really kind of drove the situation. And the entire initial conflict with the Helvetii was actually a situation where the Helvetii had picked up, they were moving, they wanted a new homeland, and the Romans simply wouldn't let them because they wanted to use them as a buffer against the Germanic tribes. The Suebi were also coming across the Rhine. They had already established some territory, but they were moving, they were migrating, and it was another example of tribes that were in the process of moving during a conflict. And I think that would be an interesting thing to model, not on a wide scale because most of the Gaelic tribes weren't moving, but it wasn't unheard of either for Gaelic tribes to relocate within Gaul. And so I think maybe a mobile sort of tribal existence might be a neat thing, and maybe even a more historically accurate thing to model in this expansion, which obviously is already out, so a little bit late to the game if it was something that was going to be added, but still something I think that's worth considering, because I think a lot of people, when they think Rome, think of the end of the empire being when tribes are being pushed out and forced upon the Romans and creating all these sorts of pressures that the Roman Empire simply couldn't keep up with. And that is true, but at the same time, it's not limited to that time period. It's not like, oh, well, because this happened, the Roman Empire fell, and if that had happened at any other previous time, then the Roman Empire would have, struggled to deal with it as well, because the Roman Empire was dealing with it in 50 BC, and they actually were dealing with it in 180 BC, or AD, sorry. And that's just one of those things that I think gets missed a lot when we think about Rome. We think about just sort of that, in some cases, it almost seems like that unfortunate situation where, well, they were just beset by these tribes and had no ability to defend themselves. Well, they had done it numerous times before. This was not a phenomenon which occurred in the 2nd or 3rd century AD, where tribes all of a sudden decided, well, we're going to start moving. That was something that had been going on for quite some time, periodically, and it was just another one of those times, and the Roman Empire was far weaker then and was simply unable to cope with these new changes and these new pressures put upon it at the end of the empire. But anyway, getting off topic a little bit here now. I took Segundium, as you can see here. I moved on, and I took Devona. So I've now got these two Gaelic provinces under my control. I'm trying to rebuild my forces, get some strength back. I've now got two firm pockets of Romanization here in the southwest and in the southwest and southeast of these two pockets of areas which I control now of Gaul. I'd like to link that, but these provinces in the middle here are still relatively friendly to the rest, and I really don't want to bite off more than I can chew. Plus, it seems if I keep one legion in the south, I can defend this area that looks on the map of Narbosis, and then I can use more forces to defend the forces or the territory in the northeast. It's just going to create a longer front for me to defend if I try and take these central provinces. It's also going to delay my conquest of these other provinces further north in Gaul, and likely make things more difficult and slower, as opposed to if I can get ahead in these other areas, then I can come back and crush these other Gaelic tribes at the end. The Alborgas seem very friendly. The darker the green, the more friendly they are with you. It looks like they're more or less friendly with everyone. They are a loyal, as you can see there on the lower right, it tells you kind of the traits of the tribe. I think that's definitely something very interesting. As you can see, they are cautious, so no one's worried that they're going to invade them, and they're also steadfast, which means if you're friends with them, they will stay friends with you. A lot of the tribes are deceitful or ambitious or willing to backstab you, but that tribe is a friend, so it doesn't seem like it would make a whole lot of sense to alienate the friend. But I don't really have anyone who is necessarily hostile to me either right now, so I'm kind of stuck in a difficult situation. So what I'm going to do right now, and the reason I say that's a difficult situation is because I don't want to go willy-nilly and attack everyone and make everyone mad at me. I'm not ready for that. I'm not strong enough for that. So I'd like to attack people who are either at war with me, who want to be at war with me, or would want to be or are already at war with my friends, the few tribes who are my friends right now, and that way I can kind of manage my expansion without going to war with the world, if you will. So what I'm going to do right now, because there really doesn't seem to be a whole lot I can do otherwise as far as going to war and expanding without ticking off everyone else even more than they already are ticked off, is kind of reform these armies. I built these armies up that period when I fast forwarded. I built these armies cheap because I simply didn't have the kind of capital or income to build high quality Roman units with legionaries and have enough for multiple armies. So I built cheap levy freemen, which obviously proved successful enough in these two battles, but at tremendous casualties. So they were victorious, but more because of numbers and less because of the quality of the forces. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to kind of reform those armies, and for those units that were devastated, I'm going to go ahead and disband them rather than let them build back up, and then I'm going to go ahead and build legionaries to replace them. Hopefully now that I've got these extra colonies as well, or these extra territories, the extra income will allow me to support this larger force of high quality troops as opposed to these mobs of low quality levy troops. So that's what I'm working on right now. And by the way, if it is annoying or if it sounds like I'm yawning or anything like this, I'm actually streaming this right now on Twitch. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, which is really where I don't get a whole lot of viewers on Twitch right now, but for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, if it does sound like I'm yawning a little bit from time to time, I do apologize. It is about 3 in the morning right now, so I am a little bit tired, but I wanted to keep on recording and keep on playing for this current session. And I don't want to edit out the gameplay if I'm in the middle of a stream. Like I said, in some cases, I mentioned that one part where I did jump ahead. I edit some things in and out, but I'm not going to go through and make this thing all terribly well polished, because it is still supposed to feel like a sort of a let's play or an AAR or something along those lines where it's more in the moment. So I might jump through certain groups of turns or long periods where I might jump, but I don't want to jump through a half a second here or a half a second there. So I do apologize for that. It feels to me like it would ruin immersion, what immersion there may be. So anyway, right now I'm taking a look at these central Gaelic tribes. I'm kind of trying to gauge where I want to go next. As you can see there, this tribe is cautious, but they're treacherous. Now, they're cautious, so I'm not too worried about Massilla. Meanwhile, the Volcati are treacherous. They're also cautious, but they're kind of isolated here in the southwest corner of Gaul. I can probably conquer them without too much worry, given that Spain is no threat, and kind of solidify my hold here on the southwest. So I think now that I've kind of rebuilt my armies somewhat, they're obviously still largely levy freemen, but some of these forces at least have some, not hastati, but have some legionaries in there. So I think I'm going to go ahead and try and take out this isolated Volcanti tribe, and hopefully it won't tick off anyone else here while I'm doing it. There are a few other neighboring tribes, but well, let's just hope I don't upset anyone too much. Because like I said, I do need to expand. At the same time, I don't want to be fighting everyone. And when you do take over territories, you do lose relationship points with other provinces because they get nervous about you. There are ways to earn that relationship back, but if I'm running around willy-nilly and attacking everyone, that's going to prove very difficult, if not impossible, to do. So you can see here I'm now dealing with a food shortage as well. I haven't been focusing too much on the domestic side of things here. I could certainly use another province to kind of get some of that food back. Now, when you do lose food, your troops may not perform as well. Instability in provinces go up, and there's a whole lot of negative consequences. So you definitely want to make sure you're producing enough food. I have not been. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and build hopefully some buildings up here in the north, well, not really the north, but in the east, that may help isolate or replenish my lost food. It will take several turns, however. So I guess we'll go ahead and hope that works out. I am building that one building to at least minimize the effect. The less food that I am short, hopefully the better off I am. And maybe if I take this city, it looks like it's called Tolosa, my food situation back in order. But anyway, that's enough for this video here. I appreciate you watching. This is the first AAR of the new year, so Happy New Year to all of you. I did also recently post a Happy New Year and sort of a thank you video. Please check that out. It's been 2 years since I've been on YouTube. It's been a lot of fun. It's really exciting. I can't believe how much fun I've had, and I'm now over 300,000 viewers. That's another one of those things that just shocks me. I never thought I'd get there. But anyway, thank you for watching. Part 3 will be up again next week. And until next time, this is the Historical Gamer signing out.